Welcome to the June TeamStudio and TLC See webinar. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to introduce my co-hosts, Paul Delanebbia and Howard Greenberg from TLC See, and today's speakers, Scott Vrusho, Dave Kern, Kevin Lynch, and last but not least, Scott Souder, all from IBM, who will be presenting Domino, Notes, and Verse, Where Are We and What's the Future? My name is Courtney. I'm the Inbound Marketing Specialist at TeamStudio and your co-host today. Before we start talking about today's topic, I'll be taking a few moments to tell you who we are and what we do at TeamStudio. I'll then be passing the controls to Howard Greenberg at TLC See so he can give an intro, and then we'll dive into today's topic. To get us started, I'm going to cover a few administrative points. The first being to protect your privacy, the attendee list is not public. Also, all attendees are muted during this session, so you can participate by typing your questions to the speakers inside the questions section on your GoToWebinar window. We're doing Q&A at the end of the session, as well as right after Scott Souder's session. But you're welcome to ask your question at any point in the questions section, and we'll get to it once the formal presentation has concluded. This session is being recorded, and the link will be sent to you in a follow-up email in a few days. So with that administrative stuff out of the way, a little bit about TeamStudio. We may have assisted you in the past with application development. We've been delivering innovative developer tools and productivity tools to the Notes and Domino community since 1996, where we specialized in source code control, version management, and source code management. And we moved into the mobile application arena in 2010 with our mobile application platform, Unplugged. The market not only needed an app platform, but it also needed app building expertise, so we offer modernization services to web enable and mobilize IBM Notes and Domino applications. Unplugged gives you the ability to extend your IBM Notes applications out to mobile devices. It leverages the powerful technology of XPages and provides a native app experience for the user. And these apps have the capability to function when offline. Apps run very quickly, and development of apps is easier than ever. We're very proud to have been the recipient of 2 IBM Collaboration Solutions Awards for Unplugged in 2013 and 2014. In January 2014 at the Connect conference, IBM awarded Unplugged with the Best of Show and CTO award. And at IBM Partner World in February 2014, IBM recognized the platform as a finalist for a Beacon Award. In addition to Unplugged as a platform, we provide off-the-shelf template apps like TeamStudio Continuity for mobile business continuity, OneView for mobile approvals requests, and Customer View for mobile CRM. We'd be happy to arrange a demo to show you how these tools work. Just contact us directly from our website or by phone. Late last year, we launched XControls on OpenNTF. This project allows you to quickly create XPages applications by dragging and dropping custom controls into your XPages. The apps you create will work on desktop browsers, mobile browsers, and TeamStudio Unplugged. You can download the XControls template from OpenNTF along with a sampler application that shows you how to make use of the different controls to build an application. You can learn more at teamstudio.com/solutions/xfoundations. Here at TeamStudio, we offer professional services that can provide you with the resources you need to meet project deadlines. Our services, such as the Unplugged Developer Assistance Program, Application Upgrade Analysis, and Application Usage Auditing, can help you work more efficiently with fewer errors. Learn more by visiting teamstudio.com/solutions/services. For promotions and announcements from TeamStudio, we're running a promotion on our Analyzer, Delta, and Configurator products. You'll be entered to win an iPhone 6 when you contact us for more info on these tools. Just click on the banner on the TeamStudio homepage for this offer. And lastly, next week on Wednesday, we're hosting a webinar in French about an IBM Notes and Domino roadmap with Laurent Godme of IBM and about the XControls with Adi Makombo of TeamStudio. If you're a French speaker or know of any French speakers who'd like to attend this webinar, check out TeamStudio's events page for more info and to register. And now I'd like to pass the presentation on to Howard so he can talk a little bit about TLC See, and then we'll kick things off with Scott Souder. Over to you, Howard.
Oh, thank you, Courtney, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Howard Greenberg, and I'm a partner here at TLCC, and along with Paul Della Nebbia, my partner here at TLCC, will be your host today. Paul, you want to say hello?
Good day, everyone, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, well, thanks, Paul. So hopefully you're seeing my screen and our beautiful pictures. A little bit about TLCC before we get started. Many of you might have taken a TLCC course before. We've been doing Notes and Domino courses since 1997, and Paul and I have been Notes and Domino instructors since 1994. So we've been around for quite a while, and our company as well has been around. So we have a complete line of self-paced courses on XPages, Notes and Domino development, admin courses, as well as user courses that you take using your Notes client and your Domino Designer or Domino Administrator client. And our best-selling courses are free demo course. So if you want to see what a TLCC course is like, you can go to our website and sign up for an introduction to Domino development or an introduction to XPages Development. Many of you may not be aware that Paul and I are also available to help you via mentoring. We can help you with your projects, or if you want to get into some topics that aren't covered in our courses, we can work one-on-one with you or your team to assist you. We also can go on-site to do instructor-led classes, as well as can do those virtually using a GoToWebinar type technology like we're using today. And finally, we also are involved in developing applications and consulting for our clients. In particular, we specialize in XPages development. We are currently having a sale on our most popular courses and packages, and these include the XPages courses and packages, as well as some of the Notes and Domino admin and developer courses. And that is going through June 30th. I'll put in the chat the URL, but you see that on the slide there, as well as at our website. So you can definitely save a fair amount of money, so check that out if you're interested in getting some training. Our upcoming webinars will resume. This is going to be the last one until September, where we'll have a pick up again with our monthly schedule. And one thing I want to point out, though, at the URL on the screen, is that we do have recordings of all our webinars going back to, I think, 2012. There's a lot of great topics we've covered previously, so check out the previously recorded webinars. And you know, whenever you want to get some training on something, in particular, I know I pointed a couple of people to one we did on performance back in I think it was 2013. That was has a lot of useful information in it. Okay, so asking questions, you notice that there's a questions panel in the GoToWebinar interface. If you don't see the GoToWebinar interface, you're probably seeing a little ribbon bar with an orange arrow. You can click on that orange arrow and the GoToWebinar interface will appear, and then you'll see a questions panel where you can ask the questions. Your questions will be answered verbally at the end of the webinar. However, Scott Souder is going to do a Verse demo and a Verse presentation first, and he has another engagement at the end of the webinar. So we're going to do Scott's presentation, handle questions related to Scott's presentation for about 5 minutes, and then we'll pick up with the rest of the team from IBM to answer questions at the end of their presentations. So the webinar is scheduled to go to noon Eastern Time, or an hour and a half. So first, let me turn it over to Scott Souder from IBM. Scott is a product manager for IBM Verse and has been going around the world, I should say, doing presentations on Verse. He's going to deliver a great presentation on this new product from IBM, otherwise known as a new way to work. So Scott, we're going to pass it over to you.
Alrighty. Grab the share. Can you give me a thumbs up, Howard?
Yes, we're seeing your screen.
All right. Fantastic. Okay, off we go. So, Howard, Courtney, Paul, thank you. Thank you for having, on behalf of the my fellow nerdy colleagues, thank you. We all four thank you for having us as part of your webcast today. So, and I also appreciate big thanks to Scott Vrusho and Kevin Lynch and Dave Kern. They're letting me go first. I'm standing outside today, the room where Jenny Rometty is speaking, the Leadership Exchange, CIO Leadership Exchange in Chicago. And we just weren't sure how the timing would play out, so we did a little last minute sort of jockeying around the schedule. So big thanks to my fellow IBM colleagues and letting me sort of jump in here and going first. That'll allow us to do some Q&A at the end of my piece here. So thanks for that, guys. So we're going to just sit through here. I don't want to bore you with slides. We're going to jump into some demonstration stuff here. But I know when we get a group of people together like this, oftentimes there are people that have seen Verse, but more often than not, at this point at least, there are a lot of people who haven't. So I want to give you just a couple of concepts and sort of a bit of a lay of the land when we do the demonstration piece. But then I also want to spend some time telling you what's new since the last time you might have, those of you that have seen Verse before, I want to show you some of the new things that we've been putting in the last few weeks. And then finally, I'll wrap my piece up with, true to the spirit of what we're talking about in the title of the webinar today, where are we going and what's next, so that you'll have a clear vision as to what the roadmap looks like for the next couple of quarters for us. All right, so from a concept perspective, you've probably seen this slide. If you've hung out on IBM.com and you've seen any of the advertisements around Verse, you know these three mail that understands you. What the heck does that mean? That's a hand wave. It's actually more than a hand wave. It's an indicator.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah.
Scott.
Yeah, I'm
Howard,
here.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Your audio is fading out a little. Maybe if you can take. Do you have a phone handy, a cell phone? Or
I do. Howard.
You click on telephone, it'll give you a dial-in number and an audio pin. That might be better if we take a few seconds for you to do that.
All right. Can you vamp while I do that for you?
Yeah, so if everyone can just hold on a minute, just to give you the better quality audio, we're going to have Scott use his telephone instead of the computer audio. So again, right now we're just on hold for a moment while Scott dials in to make sure you guys have the best quality audio that we can get. So again, just in case you're wondering why there's silence.
So I joined you, Howard. Yeah, I joined you, Howard, to try to fill the empty space.
Okay, so do you have any good jokes, Paul? Any good jokes that are suitable for a mixed world audience?
No, I don't have any jokes. But Scott mentioned he was in Chicago, and congratulations to the Blackhawks for winning the Stanley Cup last night.
All right, you guys, I'm back. Enough of the hockey stuff. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You are a little quiet.
A little weak.
All right, well, let me do this. Hang on one second. Don't go away. Let's just go straight to the device. How's that?
That's really good.
Really good. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. Off we go. So before I was so rudely interrupted by Howard, no, thanks for doing that, Howard. What I wanted to make sure everybody understands is that there's really these three phrases, right? Mail that understands you, less clutter, more clarity, connecting me to we. And just to put some words, hang some words on that for a second. Mail that understands you is a direct correlation. It's not an arm wave, like I said a second ago, but it's a direct correlation to the fact that we're doing some intelligent stuff right behind the scenes. Don't worry about what the stuff is so much at this point, but there are analytics going on behind the scenes in terms of what we're doing around Verse, and we think that's a good thing. We'll talk about that when we get to the demo here in just a sec. We talk about less clutter, more clarity, and that is nothing less than sort of a revisioned and re-engineered capability around search. There's some amazing things that we're doing with just some of the way we're doing search indexing and giving ourselves the ability to use what we refer to as faceted search. And think about the last time you bought something online. You know, maybe you went and looked at a review on cnet.com, or you bought something off of your favorite commerce site. Chances are you used facets when you were actually looking for whatever it was you were about to purchase or research or whatever. And then we also talk about connecting me to we, which again is nothing more than just an indicator that we're blurring the line between social stuff and messaging stuff. I've been talking with customers here in Chicago at this little conference starting middle of the day yesterday until just a few minutes ago. And one of the things that people really sort of get is that, hey, I'm just a guy who has work I want to get done. Don't force me to think of, oh, gee, to do that kind of functionality, I've got to be over in my social space and do stuff in the social stuff. Or if I'm doing messaging or I want to look at my calendar, I've got to flip over to my notes experience and then hopefully have a tab open for the calendar or whatever. No, I just want to get stuff done wherever it happens to be that I'm at. And so we are doing some specific things to allow for that and connecting myself, to the greater we. That's a sort of an indicator of the social aspect of Verse. That's what we're trying to say there. So let's just, without further ado, hop into the product here. And Howard, I'm assuming you can still hear me good, right? You're going to give me an indicator if you can't, right?
Yep, we hear you fine.
All right, and you can see the screen, the Verse interface and all that, right?
Yes, we do. All
right, good enough. So let me just give you a quick lay of the land, right? So if you've not seen this before, we're running in Chrome. You'll be running now in virtually any of the popular browsers, Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer. We just choose to run in Chrome. There's some things that happen in Chrome that give us some advanced capabilities. So we're developing for that environment first. That doesn't mean that we're developing for that environment only, though. So it's an important point. So as you look at this, across the top of the screen, you'll see an area where there's a bunch of circles, right? And if you've never seen this before, we refer to this area as my important to me bar. These are the people, these are the things that really resonate with me. And there's an important little thing going on over here. About 2/3 of the way to the right side of the screen, there's a little vertical line, kind of where I'm mousing over right now. And that vertical line is just the separator that says that everything to the left of that line, I essentially have confirmed or pinned in that location. So when I stop and pause there on Gail, Gail's an important person to me. And I have either dragged her there, or I've opened the directory and manually added her, or more importantly, Gail probably popped up in this area over here to the right of that vertical line as a person who was being suggested as, hey, Scott, this person might be important to you. And that's where the analytics come in. Now, we won't take the time today to dive into the bowels of some of the algorithms and how we're actually doing some of those analytics, but there are some things we're doing behind the scenes to look at the conversation pattern. Who do you talk to? How frequently do you talk to them? What are you doing? Are you sending them mail? Do you have a lot of calendar items in common? Those sorts of things. And then the left-hand side of the screen, just a message list, right? Message list that's designed to let me very quickly triage my mail, and you'll see little buttons that pop up there. I'm on a browser today, as I told you, under Chrome. But if I were on a mobile device, either my iPhone or a tablet or an Android-based device, those little icons, when they pop up, give me a very quick and easy way to triage my mail, right? We all do this. You pick up your mobile device first thing when you get out of bed in the morning, and you quickly look and say, okay, what came in as a hot item overnight? And you need a way to quickly, delete. Oh, I want to move that one to a folder. Oh, I want to follow up on that one. And so we've provided a nice way to do that. And that's what's going on in the message list. The right-hand side, sort of your reader or your preview window to give you an indication of whatever message you happen to be sitting on in the message list. In this case, it's the one from Gail there. You see the text of the message actually rendered right there on the right-hand side. That's a no-brainer. And down at the bottom of the page, there's something cool going on in terms of calendar. And the calendar, we call this a calendar bar. And the calendar bar is really just, I love this piece. This is one of my favorite. I've got several favorite things. This is one of my favorite things in the whole product, is that my calendar persists with me throughout the day. You see the little black line. It's gray right now, so if I move off of it, you'll see that it's blackish gray, whatever the color is there. That bar is animated, right? So as time progresses throughout the day, the bar moves across the day. And the beauty of that is that it indicates, it tells me not only what my next thing is, but it tells me when I have conflicts. My day doesn't look like, typically like, 2 or 3 things stacked on top of each other. I have usually 6 or 7 bars stacked on top of each other. So it's very helpful as I sort of go mousing across here. It's very helpful for me to see very quickly and easily, and this visual thing, who am I dealing with? What are the challenges for that particular time slot? And of course, the different coloration there, the gray means, hey, it's a ghosted calendar entry, just like you would experience over in our other messaging products. The green is a meeting that I've agreed to have. The blue over here towards the middle of the screen is just some personal appointment or some personal thing that I put on my calendar for myself. And of course, very quick, easy, single-click access to either join a web meeting, look at the calendar details. This is also a place where you might expect us to see a single-click action to join or start a video conference using HD video. We talked about that in Orlando in January, and that's a capability that's coming, so keep an eye out for that. All right, that's a bit of just a high-level, super high-level flyover kind of thing. Let me switch for a second here and give you some indicators of some things that are new since maybe either you last looked at this or saw, one of us doing a presentation, or some things that they may be so new that they actually, if you are using Verse today in some form or fashion, they may not actually be, quote, turned on for you yet. And that's okay. It'll just be a preview for some things that are coming for you. But there's a couple of thoughts, or a couple of things. So one of the items that rightfully so, people were sort of taking issue with is that, darn it, you've taken away my ability. If I go use Verse, you're still forcing me to go over to another interface to set my out-of-office message. Well, no longer. When we've pulled that right into Verse, and there's the capability, you get to that simply by clicking on that little umbrella down there. Don't know if the umbrella icon is going to hang around long. We've got a lot of internal debate over the umbrella icons, as if we didn't have anything else more important to talk about. But the umbrella icon may change to something else. But the point is, I now can do my out-of-office message management straight from within Verse. Another one similar to that is this idea of, I want to change my email signature. Well, up until just a few weeks ago, you had to go outside of Verse to do that, to manage that. You could still do it. Verse would still respect it. Well, we thought that functionality was important enough that it needed to be right there inside of Verse. And sure enough, there it is. And of course, the ability to edit it, it's a rich text editor, so you can pull in files, you can pull in whatever you want to pull in there, essentially. I can choose to always add that signature to my email message, or I can choose another option, or if I'm really not choosing an option, if I go compose, you'll see under options, I now have a feature there that says insert the signature. And of course, that goes and grabs whatever you just saw as the signature that I had created. So again, managing your signature capabilities for your messages, managing out of office, a couple of things that people have sort of taken notice of that were missing in Verse, they're now actually in the product. Another new feature that I really like is this idea. I'm sharing my screen, so whatever pops up is going to pop up. Sorry about that. But another idea is this concept of a quick calendar create. Right, so let's just say I wanted to, I needed to go meet with Scott Vrusho. We were talking about some subject, and I don't want to go through all the pain of just all of the stuff around setting up an invitation, or what we typically think of as doing that for a meeting. So now I just go click on a calendar spot, any spot, or alternatively, the little plus key and their little plus icon in the lower right-hand corner here. If I click on a blank spot on the calendar, I see, and instantly I see the skeleton, if you will, of a calendar invitation. And I already know my free time, right? It's already determined that for me personally, these are the time slots that are open for me, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And if I wanted to meet with so we wanted to talk, I'm having to talk with a phone by my head, sorry here, and handling a phone and typing. Let's just discuss project, whatever that happened to be. And I wanted to put, I'm not going to put Scott's name in there because Scott's not in this directory, but Larry is. And we quickly go back and pull the free time just from this interface. And you'll see it pop in just a second here. Well, there is the recommended time right there, Tuesday, June 16th from 4 to 5 p.m. If I needed more options, there's the link down there at the lower left-hand corner. Click it, and then I'm taken into the full calendar detail for, you know, things that I might want to manipulate, whether it's repeating or I wanted to include some other stuff. All that then comes into play. So you get an idea there. We're just trying to give you a very streamlined way to do a quick calendar entry. It doesn't work for, well, it will work for 5 or 6 people, but the point is it's for, you know, the onesie, twosie kinds of meetings to just quickly throw something on your calendar. Works for meetings, works for reminders, works for personal appointments, just like you would expect it to do. So one other thing that I want to show you very quickly here. Let's go up to the top of the screen. There's one other capability. You see where the profile picture is missing for this particular person? Top right-hand corner is where I'm at right now. Some reason that profile picture, I'm not going to go actually change that, but I just happened to notice just now that his profile picture, I'm logged in as a guy named Ron, but for some reason Ron's picture happens to be missing. And what that tells me is there's some API on the back end that didn't actually go through and pick up the picture file and put it in the right place for us. That's a bug on our side. But the thing I want to show you is this new capability right here, to where we're going to give you some assistance in changing your profile picture. And we're going to do that. Sorry, you look at my ugly mug here in the Marriott Hotel in Chicago, but we're going to give you a nice little photo booth thing to go in and actually do your own picture manipulation. So you can take it, upload the photo just like you would expect it to do. Now, that's really, really embarrassing that you're looking at me live right now. So I'm going to cancel that. Point is, you now have a nice way for, you know, to go substitute or go replace that profile picture that you don't have to go out to Connections or you don't have to go somewhere else to do. You can do it right from within Verse. So cool capability there. All right, one of the things that has sort of landed in the product that you probably are aware of, let's talk about just a single click to preview a file. When we made Verse generally available on March 31st, we went out to the door with a very limited number of file types that we previewed. Well, we've changed that now because all of the popular Office, open Office file types are now renderable inside of the viewer that's included as part of your Verse experience. So now, whether you have, you know, Excel spreadsheet, Word documents, maybe you have the old Symphony stuff, or you have PDFs, they'll all open just beautifully and render in the preview just with a single click. Of course, do that without even downloading the file to your computer, which is one of the coolest things in the product. I just love how we don't even force you to take up your hard disk space to actually do that. So good stuff there as well. All right, so you've seen a preview of some of the coming attractions or some of the things that maybe you didn't know were in Verse up to this minute in time. Let's go back to the slides for a second. Let's talk about what are we focusing on next. I want to give you a bit of a view of some things that we are hitting very hard right now, and we're in this mode of sort of being past our first release date of last March. So what is it that we're working on now? Well, offline is a big one. Let me give you a time frame for that. You will have offline capabilities in Verse by the end of third quarter this year. We're going to do what's called a soft launch of that capability. Probably another word that maybe gives a little bit of an indication. We'll have a beta for that for the third quarter time frame, and then in the fourth quarter this year, we'll have the full functionality of offline. You need to be thinking in terms of synchronization, not replication from an offline experience. So the idea here is that if my connection falls over, the flight attendant comes by and finds my laptop lid on my fingers while I'm composing a long email or calendar invite or whatever, you're not going to lose that. We're going to retain that for you, even though that person rudely disrupted your internet connection. We'll retain that for you. That's part of what we call resiliency. So you'll be safe from that perspective. But what we're going to do in terms of offline is we're going to, when you choose to go offline, we're going to actually synchronize X number of days of calendar data for you, both in arrears and looking ahead, and X number of days, weeks, whatever, for your actual mail data. So you'll have that to look at, whatever, use, manipulate, whatever, when you're offline. The reason I'm sort of hammering on this for a second is that you guys, and myself included, we all are used to a replication model, right? And that replication model says I have everything contained in an NSF. Well, that's a thing of beauty, but it's not reality when you start talking about browsers and how you do offline support in the browser space. So be thinking about synchronization, and we'll say more about that as we get the capabilities developed and finished up developing and delivered over the next few months here. Of course, we've been focusing on mobile. If you haven't tried the Verse app in iOS land, go do that. It's actually quite good. Use a SyncML instead of ActiveSync as the protocol for synchronizing back and forth between the device and the back end. We have support for Android now available. The iPad is next, native app that actually runs in iOS but is configured and tweaked to run best in the iPad experience. That is imminently coming, so that's just within a matter of days. I think it's actually at the end of June, so look for that on iPad. We're going to be doing some things with calendaring. Calendaring for us, we've got we stand at a fork in the road a little bit on calendaring. Our iNotes team, which there's some phenomenal developers in our very talented group of engineers. The iNotes team has produced a number of really, really efficient, just think of it as chunks of code that do special things. And they're continuing to do that. We think we have a chance to do some interesting things with some of the things that they have created, but we don't want to just reskin calendaring. We're actually going to spend some time in the first part of next year doing some reimagining around the calendar and the meeting experience, much like we've done for the mail experience in 2015. So look for us to continue to do some cool things there. Of course, some social stuff that will continue to deepen our integration with the connections services. I won't take time to demo that today. Here's an interesting one. Our friend and colleague, Rob Koplowitz, many of you probably recognize that name. Rob is leading the team from a product management perspective that is focused on integration of some of the cognitive capabilities. So we talked in January, we actually demoed a piece around personal virtual assistant. That's going to be coming to fruition over the coming months. We'll have some big announcements around cognitive/Watson integration in October at the Insight event in Las Vegas, so watch for that. And of course, another one is the huge effort that is now going on around extensibility and integration for solutions that either you built yourself or solutions that are provided by other business partners. I'm going to say a little bit more about that one in just a second. We'll come back to the third-party piece in just a second. And of course, we're in a cloud-based environment, so we have the opportunity to plug in cool little things all along the path. We call that continuous delivery, continuous innovation, and you'll see us continue to do some things based on what we feel people are using in the product. We can tell you what you're using. We can't do that in notes today, but we have instrumented the Verse experience to be very specific, to know exactly what you're using, how frequently you're using it, and it gives us some interesting capabilities. If you're not using a feature, nobody's using a feature, well, we don't want it, like we've not been able to do in the notes world, we don't want it to hang around in the product. We want to clear it out of there and make way for other stuff. So that's what that next to last bullet is about. And of course, everybody asks about on-premises support. We know the importance of that. We are engaged in the work around on-premises support. The commitment here is that there will be some level of proof, some level of how do I say it? The work is going on. It will not be production by the end of the year, but the proof will be in the pudding that we will have on-premises support for Verse in some form or fashion right at the end of the year. Of course, we'll take a big chunk of 2016 to sort of productionize that and make sure that when if you do choose to use Verse on premises, you will need to have just an amazing experience. And there'll be some things we'll be saying a little bit later on this year about that, and sort of giving a little bit more of a reveal about how the technical side of that is coming forward. So, but I just want to give you a snapshot. You got a nice snapshot there of kind of where we're headed, what's going on. one thing I want to draw your attention to that's imminent within the next few weeks. Those of us on the phone from IBM, we could look at a schedule and tell you exactly which piece of function is coming almost to the day. But one of the cool things that's happening, and I got hit with this one this morning, a customer came up at the conference that I'm at and was lamenting the fact that he has contacts stored all over the place. You think about that for a second. I have contacts in my social space. I have contacts in Domino. I have contacts in Travel. I have contacts in Same Time. Well, those of you that know Maureen Leland, you'll recognize her name. Maureen was the gal that led a lot of the development work for the designer clients in Notes and Domino. Maureen has been off doing a special project for a number of months now where she's been working on, gee, how do we start to bring that together? We've been sort of splintered. How do we start to bring those things together to where I have some level of synchronization between those various repositories of contacts? And this one gets my attention because I can go right back. I'm going to go right back over to Verse here for just a second. And you can see the problem right here. When I click on people, you'll see that I have my contacts. Well, those are my social contacts. And I have my mail contacts. Well, those mail contacts came from Domino originally. Why do I need two lists of contacts? Why can't you combine those, or at the very least synchronize those so that I have the same experience in contacts, whether I'm using them within Verse, within Notes, or eventually within other places, maybe Same Time, maybe Traveler, etc. So good stuff happening there. I just wanted to call your attention to that as we kind of continue the conversation here. All right, I've hit a bunch of this already. This will be in the deck. It gives you another statement or two about kind of what we're thinking maybe on into 2016. I want to say a couple of words about what we're doing from an API and integration perspective, and then I'm going to flip it back over, Howard, to you to direct us through how to do the Q&A piece. So you cannot take the partner ecosystem out of the equation and have a successful product. We get that. We understand that. We have been sort of holding at arm's length the development work around what we're doing from an extensibility and an integration point or perspective around the API work. We are headlong into that now. And you're going to see over the next couple of months, there will be a proof of concept of sorts that will be built and shared with partners about how to do that. We will spend the fourth quarter of this year sort of productionizing those APIs. So if you are listening today or listening to this webcast and you're a partner, you need to know that we're dead on this stuff now, and the API work is well underway. Let me give you a couple of statements. There's two slides here that describe 4 different levels of API work that's going on. We believe that there are people who will want to do things in their applications that work on content within Verse. That's one level of integration and extension that we think is important, and so we're working on some APIs around that. We think the converse of that is true as well, where there will be external applications, things that you use as parts of business and other areas in your businesses, that you will benefit from the analytics and the things that we are doing in Verse, and yet you need a way to leverage the knowledge and the insight that's gained by those analytics. We're going to do that. We're going to provide the path to getting there from an API perspective. And then we think also that there's an opportunity to allow for things that are sort of garnered from other applications from an analytical perspective. Think about Watson. Think about Watson Analytics. Think about some of the other tools that produce sort of inferred knowledge or analytical kinds of things that are leverageable in other places. We think that's important as well. So we will be building a way for you to bring things from other resources that could sort of enhance the Verse experience, not just leverage the data, but actually enhance the Verse experience. How do you plug them in? I think about not just limited to analytics, but think about things like e-signatures. Think about other applications, whether CRM or ERP type applications that might want to actually influence and change or enhance the Verse experience. We're doing that as well. And then the fourth piece there, the one at the very bottom, is simply just a way of saying, you know what, we get it. there might be some times, some places where you want to swap out pieces of functionality in the Verse experience. Think about instant messaging, one that comes to mind. I want to unplug what you provide me, IBM, from an instant messaging experience, and I'm using some other collaboration stack that provides a chat capability. I'd like to plug that into the Verse experience. How do I do that? So that's the fourth way. That's the fourth sort of area that we're focused on from an extensibility and integration perspective. So again, you're going to have all these slides. I'm going to skip my last slide there, and I'm going to wrap it right there, Howard, and flip it back your direction. So there you go.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Let's see. Let me just make myself the presenter here.
And while you're doing that, Howard, I could start with the first question.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul. And just let me remind everyone that you can ask your questions in the question panel. The instructions to do that should be showing in your GoToWebinar interface now.
Okay, so I have a number of questions for you, Scott, related to the on-premise Verse. And I'm going to just group them all together into one question. So a lot of questions about when it's available, several questions about what software will be required. How do we prepare for the on-premise Verse? And some questions about integration with the on-premise Verse and IBM Domino applications. So if you can comment on those.
Okay, sure. So that's an easy one to comment on at this point because I cannot give you the specifics. What I can start to give you some indication for is that there are enough moving parts and pieces in what we're talking about that there is significant thought being given to how do we help you consume this from a deployment perspective. How do we, if I told you all the parts and pieces, and Kevin and Dave and Scott would back me up on this, if you just take what we have in Verse today, you start down the conversation stack and you say, hey, okay, as a Domino administrator, I'm pretty darn comfortable with Domino, right? I know my way in and out and around all the Domino administration stuff. Good, got it. The next question I would ask you is I say, okay, well, that WebSphere. Tell me how you're, oh yeah, WebSphere's good. We got that because we have other applications that use WebSphere and we're comfortable with that. Well, then I would start to say, okay, well, tell me about F5. What are you doing from a load balancing perspective? How does F5 play into your environment or some other load balancing technology? You would go F what? And then I'd say, well, yeah, okay, if that one's a little bit of an issue, what are you doing from a Watson perspective? And all of them, of course, there's no such thing as on-premises Watson, but what are you doing to integrate or think about some of the Watson services and capabilities? And then I might ask you, okay, well, what about Apache Solar? How versed are you, no pun intended, but how equipped are you to deal with managing solar indexes, a distributed search index that's hugely performant, which is essentially what solar is. And you would all of a sudden start to get the feeling that, I'm pretty comfortable with Domino. I run my environment, on, microcents per transaction. You've just told me that I have to add all these parts and pieces to get the Verse experience. You kind of get the point that at some point IBM has to come back to you and say, okay, we get it. You're good at X, but you need Y and Z to sort of flesh out this experience. We need to focus on providing the Y and the Z in a consumable fashion. And that's where our energy is going right now from a development perspective. How do we do that? I can't tell you if that's going to be some sort of appliance. I can't tell you if that's going to be, some sort of service-based thing yet. But those are all very, very active discussions that we are in the middle of right now. The good news is I can tell you that we know how on-premises Verse, we know it will work. We ran from day one. We have an environment, the guys on the phone and myself, we all get our mail through an environment called SCN, Smart Cloud Nodes Iris. Right? It's a bit of an allusion to legacy days, right? So we all get our mail and our messaging experience through that particular segment of our cloud. Well, guess what? SCN Iris, in its early days, ran as an on-premises environment called MailNext or Sequoia in those days, but it ran as an on-premises Verse experience. So we know it works. We know how to do it. The challenge is making it something that's consumable for our customer base. So that's what we'll continue to focus on. That's what we'll continue to talk about over the next few weeks, months. The other part of the question was, what about my Domino applications? Domino applications will run beautifully within Verse. We're doing some work today around integration of form waves and Lotus scripts, so that when you get that button that somebody created with Lotus script, in Notes, it'll work just fine in Verse. It'll either tell you that you need to open this thing in a Notes client, or it'll open for you, one of two things. If you needed a Notes client, you don't have a Notes client installed, guess what? That's where the thing called Notes Browser Plugin, now renamed to IBM Client Application Access. I think I've got the words in the right order there, but that's where that comes in and allows me to actually open Domino-based and manipulate Domino-based applications as if I were working inside of a Notes client. Allows me to do that from within a browser-based experience. So we've got you covered on both of those. It's just it's a little bit too early for us to give too many details around the on-premises stuff. So stay tuned.
Hey, Scott, there's also a couple of questions that kind of go around the theme about how can they try it out. Could you address, quote, IBM Verse for the public, and also talk about what you showed, some people noted was not what they're seeing in the IBM Verse they've been trying out, and so maybe you can discuss the whatever version you're working on and when that might be hitting the public cloud.
Yeah. Okay, so from a try it out perspective, go to ibm.com/verse. There will be a way for you to try a trial version. It will create a new email address for you. This is one of the challenges we're sort of under right now from a trial experience. Everybody wants to do trials, but they want to use their existing email identity to do so. We're heads down on working on a solution for how we will be able to do that. But for today, you can try a no-charge version just by going to ibm.com/verse. Sign up. You'll get you'll be told what to do and how to experience it at no cost there. The other question, Howard, in terms of the timing. So it's interesting when you're building in a cloud environment. One of the beautiful things actually is you have the ability to build capabilities, add features and functionality, put them into the product unbeknownst to anybody until you sort of flip the switch and turn it on. We have various ways of doing that, right? Various ways of we'll either call it dark launch or soft launch. We'll put features in that we essentially keep roped off until we have either done the effective communication to the world about a set of features, or until such time we feel like the feature is strong enough, robust enough, performant enough, whatever, where we're ready to flip it on. So some of the things that I showed you today, I get it, they may not be in your experience, but the things that I showed you are imminent. They're within days or weeks of showing up in your experience. So don't fret that. I wasn't leaning too far into the wind today. Those are real things. Those are things that you'll see very shortly in your Verse experience as you know it today.
And now, Scott, you mentioned the word trial. Some people were asking, but is it like Hotmail or Gmail? Is it actually just a time-limited trial, or is it just free email like Gmail?
No, so it's a trial that is, I don't know if there's a limitation on it honestly, but the trial, Verse is designed to be used with other people sort of surrounding you, right? That's kind of the nature of the beast. It's a socially enabled mailbox. And so the trial today, the way it works is you go in and you sign up, you're an individual. You're going to miss out on some of the capabilities around the important to me stuff. You're going to miss out on some of the way Verse does the analytics about who you're sending and receiving email, to and from, because that's focused on your corporate stuff for the most part, right? It's focused on stuff that you exchange back and forth inside of your organization. When you go sign up for a trial, you're basically signing up as an individual. You're not signing up as a company. That's a shortcoming in our trial experience. We recognize that today. We're working on sort of addressing that. So I mean, it's an individual experience. I don't think it's time bound, but it's basically just an email experience. I don't know if I'm answering your question, Howard. If any of the other guys can, when they come out, and can address that a little bit more.
Okay.
A little more
That's
strategically,
good.
but yeah.
Okay, I think we're kind of running a little over, so we're gonna switch over to Scott Vrusho and move on with some of the other topics and related to Notes in Domino. So Scott, thanks so much for taking the time out from your CIO conference, I think it is, and we appreciate your presentation. And we're going to move back to Scott Vrusho and kind of back to the Notes in Domino world and kind of learn what's more short term in the next year or two with that product. So let's see. Scott, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can. I'm going to, I guess, Courtney, if you can make Scott the presenter, Scott Vrusho.
I am the presenter, and I think I am presenting.
You are. Yeah, take it away.
Very good. So, great info on from Scott Souder on Verse. We were going to save the best till last and end with that, but it's good that we got it up first for the number of attendees, so that if people's patience wanes, they heard about Verse, which is really the key strategic lead that we wanted people to see. Now I wanted to talk a bit about Domino and save some time for Dave Kern to talk about security. So Dave's our resident paranoid, and you want to hear what he has to say. Standard legal disclaimer from IBM about statements on future directions.
Scott, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Is there any way you can make the PowerPoint bigger? We're seeing the PowerPoint preview right now.
Oh, interesting. So
maybe on another screen there, Scott.
I'm on a single screen. Let me see.
Did you choose to share your screen, Scott, or are you sharing just the application?
I'm sharing the application, but I can share my whole screen.
That would be better, yes.
Let's see. Actually, is that any better?
Now we see the sorter.
Well, all right, let's see. Main screen.
There we go.
All right, thank you. Despite our best pre-check abilities. All right, so let's get into it. Agenda, I want to do a brief review of current Domino content, talk about futures, talk about our IBM Mail support for Microsoft Outlook, Project Hawthorne, and then turn it over to Dave for security. You already got the Verse pitch. So brief currency on Domino 901. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on 901, but I do want to just let people know one of the things that you can do to start preparing for both the future of Domino security and the future of Verse on-prem is to get up to the 901 Domino release. It shipped in Q4 of 2013. As of tomorrow, we will have shipped 4 fix packs on top of it, and the initial release was focused on quality and had some targeted features. These targeted features, for time, I am not going to go over. It's just a list. There's more detailed content in the backup of the slides that will be posted, but you can see that there were some targeted items that that was focused on reliability in the 901 release. So we've done fix packs on top of 901, and in those fix packs, aside from very important defect fixes for our customer base, we've been also adding other important items like revving the JVM to a more current SR level. I'll talk about later JVMs a little bit deeper into the deck. But in the fix packs, we've been doing revs to support browsers that have come out like IE11, doing CK editor updates, JVM updates. FP3 added some iOS 8 support for XPage mobile controls. That actually came out in an interim fix before that. And we've been revving Dojo. So I have a typo here on the Dojo version, so I'll fix that for the posting of the deck. And but 901 Fix Pack 4 has the TLS 1.2 content that we shipped in March, plus more, and there will be details from Dave Kern in a few on that. So futures on Domino next. Here's a sample of what's coming in a future release. Live view refresh to avoid bottlenecks, expanded summary limit in documents, which our design community will enjoy, a NIP NSF project. Let me go right into these. So we've implemented a dedicated background thread for maintaining critical view indices. This is something that we have been working on with specific customers who had very busy databases and very busy views inside those databases that prevented users from working in the database as they as these very hot views were blocked on the thread. So a contentious view where threads are trying to read and search that view, but first refresh it with new documents that have come in or been updated, you get blocked. So we did some work where we were able to create a dedicated background thread for maintaining critical view indices. And this is something that, we had been giving out as hot fixes. Did I lose my screen? Shoot. Sorry guys, one sec. Play. Do I need to full screen again?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Main screen. There we go.
Yes.
There we go. Thank you. So this was something that we had given out as hot fixes, but we added the code to 901 Fix Pack 3, which shipped in January, and we've done additional fixes in FP4. So let me give you a little bit about what this does for you. The design flag can be set on a view via the updal task from the server console on an ODS 52 or above NSF file. What this means is that if you have an existing database that was created pre-release 9.0, you'll be in a pre-901 actually. You'll be at a lower ODS level. So that's an important notation that that you need to have the create R9 databases equals 1 flag set and compact the database with the -C switch to get it to an ODS 52, or create a new database with that INI set. But once you do have a database that's at that ODS level, you can load updal with the database name -T# hashtag, and the number of seconds followed by the view name. And in 901 FP4, we added the important parameter that allows you to disable the dedicated background thread on a specific view. So when you, in this example, we load updal with a -T, #5 on the by category view, and #30 on the all docs view, sets the polar to 5 and 30 seconds on those two views. So you actually get a dedicated index thread for each of those, in addition to the core indexer updal task. And if you do a show tasks, you'll see it referenced as view indexer with the specific database and view name. The individual threads can be stopped, but only temporarily until a server restart through the tell view indexer stop command. And then you can disable on a view, as mentioned above, with loading it. So this has helped tremendously in very hot databases for our current customers. So what's next? We're expanding the 64K summary limit. Right now, in current releases, if you have a single document, the summary text limit on them is 64K per document and 32K per field. So if you have two very large summary fields, it would exceed the summary bytes available for the document. And then we're still limited to 32K per view entry. So in Domino Next, we've raised the summary data so you can actually go up to 16 megabytes per document. So that's an important increase for people who have documents with lots of fields that they need programmatic access to. The individual field and view limits remain unchanged. Another important feature that's coming is the ability to store NIF indices outside of a database. I'm not going to talk too much about Deos because Deos has already been in the product for quite a while, since release 8.5, but it's a way of a database being able to exceed a 64 gigabyte logical size with Deos stores outside. View indices outside will continue with that thread by moving the view indices outside of an NSF file optionally, and they can grow up to 1 terabyte, taking the pressure and burden off of the 64 gigabyte limit in the NSF files. Those view indices can now be put on a faster drive. You can back up without backing up the view indices, so you get faster file copies and backup. It's encrypted for secure storage, much like Deos is, and there's no direct API access. It's accessed through the existing NSF APIs, which creates a secure environment. A few other items. RFC 2231 is a support for mail file types that it's the current standard for specifying non-ASCII headers. This is something that we did in our cloud environment, and we're bringing to the next on-prem release. And so this was introduced a while ago, but it was not used for many years, but it has evolved to be the standard for many mail clients like Thunderbird as an example. So we're adding that in. Another important cloud item that was put in is the ability to restrict people from enabling a mail rule to forward messages to the internet. So let's say you have someone who decides to forward all of their mail to Yahoo or some other mail provider that might not be considered secure for corporate data that you want to house on your own server environments. We will now have a server-side config option that will prevent a user from allowing those messages to forward. We don't stop the rule from being created, but we don't act on the rule. So any addresses in domains that are not owned by your company are ignored, and you get to configure that in the interface for this. In the web space, document encryption and signature support for XPages is being added. So this simplifies access using public keys or apply greater control using secret keys. and it ensures authenticity by signing those documents from a web browser. So the support related for that is new back-end classes and methods in C, Java, and Lotus Script. We have a new ID Vault class, methods for working with IDs, properties, etc. You actually heard a lot more in the app dev space in the May TLC TeamStudio webinar from Pete Jansen, Martin Donnelly, and Brian Gleason. That's posted on YouTube, and there will be a link in the presentation that we post. Some other stuff going on, support for Microsoft Calendar message files. So there's some situations where mail can arrive with an unviewable attachment. This process handles that. The message types will now be understood and processed. You'll be able to read the mail or act on the calendar entries. And we're also going to do a bunch of currency in the next release. We're going to update baseline components, including moving to Java 8, going to the latest key view for indexing and viewing attachments. There's a back-end structure called IBM Classes for Unicode that we're revving to a newer version. Windows 10 Notes client support, that's something that's in test now. We know that Windows 10 is releasing on July 29th, and we want to be prepared for that. So the validation that we're doing right now will clarify whether we can support with the existing release with no code modifications, or if we need a patch to support anything there. But of course, that support will continue into the next Notes Domino release, and Notes release specifically. Windows 10 is a client platform, so that'll just be for the client. The next version of the Windows Server we're also looking at, but that doesn't come out until 2016. And Notes Max 64-bit is coming out this fall to align with the OS X 10.11 El Capitan release, and that will support native Java 8 64-bit. So that's an important milestone for us on the client with the Mac platform, moving from 32-bit to 64-bit. So lots more for latest OS releases for server across I, Z Linux, Windows Server Next, RHEL, and SLES, and of course AIX. So last section I wanted to put you guys, give you guys some insight into is IBM Mail support for Microsoft Outlook. This is something that we released it to coincide with Domino 901. We've been adding customers into this program to provide them the code to run this on-premise, and this gives you the ability to have client choice in the client experience. So we've already had IMAP access, the traditional Notes client, mobile device access by a traveler. You have iNotes, the Notes browser plugin, of course Verse with the new way to work. But Microsoft Outlook 2013 gave us the ability to leverage what was based on the Traveler technology to synchronize mail to an Outlook 2013 client. And we have triple-digit customers running this right now in their environments, and it allows a Domino 9 server in Outlook 2013 to communicate. We're doing it over Exchange Active Sync, and it's a capability versus a separate solution. So think of it just like IMAP or POP3. We have a lightweight add-in that you install into the Outlook 2013 client that gives some additional functionality beyond the native that leverages Domino REST services. So you get access to things like out of office and pre-busy lookup. It has an auto update feature, so we host that on an external HTTP site. So when a new version is posted there, the client optionally can be auto updated. Customers can choose to change that to host on an internal website for greater control. And one of the things that's so the capabilities it gives you is the ability to do mail, folders, calendar, contacts. You can delegate. We have offline search capabilities. You can encrypt documents and read encrypted documents. You've got your out of office, room finder, FreeBusy, quota support, et cetera, et cetera. So here's the high level architecture. You've got your Outlook 2013 and IBM Mail add-in at the top. This is our kind of recommended architecture. So you do LDAP lookups right from the Outlook client natively across your corporate directory. And then we have customers use an IP sprayer to distribute the load across their Domino mail cluster. And there's an IBM Mail support add-on for the Domino server that's installed there that is a separate installation package that enables the Domino mail server to speak directly with an Outlook client. And then we have a DB2 infrastructure for tracking the metadata, and that's high availability. It's really identical to, if you're familiar with Traveler high availability, it's identical to that configuration. So right now the client is 2013 on Windows only. We started with Domino 64-bit on Windows 64-bit. We added AIX 64-bit last year, and as of today, we now offer Linux 64 as an option as well. That it requires Domino running 901 plus the latest fix pack. HTTP is the protocol of communication, so that has to be running, and your mail replicas have to reside on the Domino server that is enabled with the IMSA add-on, making it a Hawthorne server, if you will, and ID Vault, which enables notes encryption. We do require DB2. Right now, Traveler supports other databases, but Traveler ships with Derby and it supports SQL, but for this solution we're requiring DB2. For small proof of concepts you can bypass DB2, but for production environments we find that it greatly improves performance and reliability. And we have a cloud release planned for the end of Q4 of this year. So if you're interested in this solution in 2015, please contact your IBM sales rep, and then I think you'll see a broader release coming in 2016. So I did pretty well on my 20-minute allocation. I'm going to go over to Dave Kern for security.
Good morning. My name is David Kern, and I am the resident paranoid and global security architect for IBM Collaboration Solutions. We've seen a great deal of churn and concern in the space around SSL and TLS.
David, this is Paul. Your sound seems to be kicking out. Is it just me?
No, it looks like Dave.
No, I don't hear
muted.
anything either.
Dave muted himself.
Can we unmute him? David, is that you? David, I believe you've muted yourself.
I can't unmute him. I don't know what.
I think he was in the same room with Scott. Scott, can you hear us? Because they were using a conference phone.
Oh, maybe the phone kicked out. Anyone else feel comfortable talking to those slides as they scroll by?
This is important stuff. If you're an admin. Okay, Dave's saying you've muted all of us. I don't think we, no, you.
Scott, you need to re-enter your PIN. That's what's wrong.
And can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yes.
We got you.
All right. Dave speaking.
Okay, let's try this again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is David Kern, and I'm the resident paranoid and global security architect for IBM Collaboration Solutions. I'd like to start off by talking a little bit about the massive amount of confusion and change that we've seen in the space around SSL and TLS over the last year. Starting off with a brief timeline over the last 6 to 8 months or so. So it's been known for a long time that the SHA-1 hash algorithm was due to be sunset in January of next year. So we started working on a release that would deliver SHA-2 support to you in a timely fashion in order to avoid being caused any discomfort by that.
David,
However,
this is Paul again. I'm going to interrupt you. Scott, we're seeing screen 1 in non-presentation mode, or slide 1. Is that what you want it to be showing?
Working on it.
Yeah. And there we go. Sorry about that.
Trying again. So, but in September of last year, first Chrome, then Firefox announced that they were starting to sunset SHA-1 over a year early, adding prominent warnings for any sites with SHA-1 certificates starting in, I believe, as early as November. This accelerated our timetable a bit from trying to get something out in 2015 and plenty of time for the 2016 deadline, to trying to get something out in early November. Then partway through that, mid-October, an SSL vulnerability with a remarkably catchy name is publicized. This is sort of the beginning of a trend that we start to see as security researchers try to invent the most clever names that they can come up with for their attacks, to make an issue that would ordinarily only be of concern to a handful of administrators and security experts show up on the nightly news in order to gain more publicity for themselves. This resulted in browser manufacturers and administrators frantically disabling SSL version 3 everywhere before actually checking to see if all of their components supported better than version 3. And ironically led to some people disabling SSL version 3 while leaving SSL version 2 enabled. Needless to say, we started working a bit more quickly at that point, if such was even possible. A few weeks later, we released some initial interim fixes that added TLS 1.0 support in order to resolve Poodle, and to add the SHA-2 capabilities for Notes and Domino SSL. I'll touch on all of these points in greater detail later. 1 month later, a new version of Poodle is announced, and we'd like to thank the security researchers behind that for not notifying us before the initial announcement. So we were not able to deliver the one-line fix for that at November 4th, along with everything else. 11 days later, we released yet another set of interim fixes for the variant of Poodle on TLS. And then most recently in March, we delivered Domino 901 FP3 IF2, which rounded everything up and delivered the full bundle, including TLS 1.2 support. That's where I'll spend most of my time that is left in this conversation. So the November fixes added TLS 1.0 support inbound and outbound, all protocols except DIIOP. For that, it only added support for inbound, as outbound DIIOP is handled through the Java stack, not through the Notes native stack. It also added support for TLS fallback SCSV, which is used to prevent the fallback style attacks that were the primary vehicle for triggering the Poodle vulnerability. And we also performed some other cleanup, such as removing weak algorithms and protocols and reordering things to use stronger protocols before the weaker. Next slide, please. December, there were just two main fixes there, fixing the Poodle on TLS vulnerability and adding a Notes INI to allow admins to disable SSL v3. Next slide, please. One issue that people started having after deploying these is that after SSL v2 was enabled entirely, they discovered that there are still some servers out there who are still configured for SSL version 2 backwards compatibility. This was extraordinarily useful back in 1996, but doing it in 2014 or 2015 is downright insane. But there are some old applications that might still be using that SSL v2 client hello, very old OpenSSL libraries or very old out-of-date clients. However, even with most of those, you can manually configure that tool or that configuration to use something better. The main issue that we've seen here is with some external SMTP servers who deliver mail using this antiquated handshake and who have been less than enthusiastic about upgrading their support. I won't name any names, but they're big and prominent, and you've probably heard of them. But in order to allow for our customers that desperately need to allow for that need to reopen a massive security hole in order to provide interoperability with these providers, we've added a Notes INI that will be a few slides further down. Next slide, please. So we got to how did we get here? Where are we today? TLS 1.2 is a significant improvement over the older versions. It uses SHA-256 internally instead of older hashes. It adds support for ciphers that use those newer hashes. It adds support for a new type of cipher that avoids the CBC-style ciphers, which have been the subject of so many vulnerabilities like Poodle and Beast over the years, and a host of other security-related improvements. The big caveats are that TLS 1.2 has a hard requirement for SHA-256, and SHA-256 requires significant cryptographic changes that were added into Notes in Domino 9.0x. So there are no plans to backport any of that newer TLS functionality into 8.5x. That would involve turning 8.5x into 9.0x effectively, which isn't what anyone would want. Now, in order to deliver this functionality to you quickly, we did so without changing any UI elements. It would require a full maintenance release. This is why we have Notes INI commands in order to configure everything, and there's a separate tool to manipulate keyring files rather than updating the existing database-based approaches. I'll touch quickly on a couple of different upgrades that have been done as part of this improvement as well. The old style SSL renegotiation is vulnerable to a variety of different attacks. The way to protect against that is to declare support for secure renegotiation. You don't even need to allow for renegotiation at all. The simple fact of declaring that you support secure renegotiation says that you do not support the old style renegotiation, which protects the client against being victimized by these attacks. Next slide, please. We've also added support for the HTTP strict transport security header. This indicates to web browsers that they should only use HTTPS and never use HTTP. So if you disable the HTTP port or set it to redirect only, Domino will start sending this header by default. And that will tell web browsers that even if you get lazy and just type in the blah.com into your web browser, the web browser will know that it will always go to HTTPS, and it will tack that HTTPS onto the front of the URL and prevent the guy that's sitting next to you in the coffee shop from intercepting your clear text traffic and then doing a man-in-the-middle attack on your communications. Next slide, please. And you see a URL at the bottom of that slide, which is a pointer to an article in the Notes in Domino wiki. There's a vast amount of information in the Notes in Domino wiki on all of this new information. I'd recommend looking around there in the Domino security category under TLS or SSL for more information. Next slide. Perfect forward secrecy was added. This is critical for protecting against certain powerful entities that might happen to be recording every bit and byte that goes over the network. It ensures that no long-term keys are used to generate or transmit your network traffic and prevent someone from recording traffic, then afterwards going back and deciding to decrypt that. They need to do an active man-in-the-middle attack rather than just doing a passive recording and look at it later. We've added a host of new ciphers that provide forward secrecy in 901FB3IF2. There have been countless attacks on hashes in CBC mode over the past several years, and on the next slide we see the response to that being algorithms that use authenticated encryption instead of a hash algorithm for integrity. We've added 4 of those into 901FB3IF2, 2 of which also provide perfect forward secrecy. Next slide. You now configure ciphers with a SSL cipher spec notes ini. We couldn't add any of these new ciphers or versions in the UI. So when you install the newest version of Notes in Domino, it will use safe and secure configuration settings by default. You don't need to worry about disabling old things or disabling weak ciphers. We've done that for you. And we've ordered the ciphers so that a strong cipher will be used instead of a weak cipher, as the client prefers both. Next slide, please. Here are a set of notes inis that can be used if you absolutely want to enable weak functionality for improved interoperability with old clients, or disable SSL v3. Next slide. There's a you can test your SSL configuration by going to the URL shown here, and it will rate your site and show you what you're doing. If you configure your Domino server correctly, you can end up with an A- on this site. Next slide, please. OpenSSL is another very useful tool in order to test your configuration and make sure that everything is working correctly. Another one that I would recommend is another open source tool called SSL Scan that will return all of the ciphers and versions supported by your web page. So where are we going? Under consideration for inclusion in the future fix pack that Scott may have teased will be coming out any day now. We have OCSP response stapling, which can improve client performance significantly. We have some improvements that will enhance your interoperability with Java 6 and 7, which have certain peculiar limitations that cause problems connecting to newer servers that have a stronger configuration. We've added some additional enhancements to protect against the logjam attack, enhanced our DH support, improved logging, and added some stability and interoperability fixes. TLS 1.3, I've heard questions about that before. It's currently only an internet draft, but we're following it closely, and it's under consideration for inclusion in a future release of Notes Domino. And we'll leave the SHA-2 section here for reference. It tells you how to use the KYR tool in order to build a keyring that uses SHA-2 rather than SHA-1. And then the next batch of slides that will also be going to backup are using SHA-2 for SMIME. We have several screenshots there that can help show you how to configure your SMIME users to use stronger algorithms, to use AES and SHA-2.
So I think we're going to stop there since we're at the time and see if there's any Q&A that we want to take.
Yeah, that would be good. I'm just going to switch presentation over to myself. And reminder to ask the questions in the Q&A pane. Also, some upcoming events I have on the slide now. I won't read them. But one event that's not on the slide that I saw some news about was Connect, which is our favorite event in Orlando, which actually I saw is going to happen in Orlando, just not at the typical place. And I think the date is January 31st. So, you know, if you're making notes in your calendar for conferences for next year, you can keep that in mind. The good news is that IBM has decided to bring that conference back. There's some rumors that it might be going away or integrated into bigger IBM conferences. So there's a number of questions for you guys. I'm not sure we're going to get into them all. It's already noon, but we'll take a few of them. And Scott, let me start with kind of wrap some questions together. So I think one bit of good news you mentioned was that Java 8 is going to be in the Notes Domino next. And I guess the big question would be, what is the time frame for that? Because there are a number of questions, people asking about support for Java 7 or 8 is for Notes and Domino as well as XPages.
Yep. So this is where I could use my my partner Scott Souder from the product management team. But we are working on a 902 schedule. Currently, it is not a 2015 deliverable, and we're trying to make a plan come together that gets it out in the first half of 2016. But no official date for that Notes Domino Next release.
Okay, and that would be the 902 would be next, which would be where the newer versions of Java come in.
That's right.
Okay, just want to clarify that. There seem to be some confusions.
Okay, Scott, I've got a couple of questions related to the live view refresh. So one is a question concern about, you know, how many live views can you activate? You know, is it, are you starting to get into a high cost of CPU and memory if you've got, you know, dozens of identified or view indexers running on several critical views?
Yeah, it's a good question. So what we've found is when you have it really depends on the number of highly active contentious views that you have running. So you know the server is going to be blocking on all of those user threads trying to gain access to that single view. So moving to a dedicated view indexer is a more favorable and healthier server environment. But on the flip side, we don't have any. The individual thread itself doesn't consume a lot of memory to load up. It just depends how much work it's doing to keep the view up to date. So we don't have any boundary numbers or performance runs on you know, what's it look like when you get to 10, 20, or 100 of those extra threads. So it's something that we have planned in the Domino Next runs, but for now we're using it for targeted support PMRs and customer applications to garner some of that experience in the real world while we're running those internal tests.
Okay, and a related question is, does it persist across server restarts? And also from the same person, why do I have to set it from the console to turn it on? Well, why can't I just go into the view settings and set it there?
Right. So we will have a UI control for that in Domino next. For now, we wanted an option to do it, so it's a console command line option. To do it as a tick box inside of Designer means a UI change and releases of Designer in all of the languages, and that's queued up for 902, not before. So it's sort of like the security TLS work and additional ciphers. This is a way of us getting code out to our clients faster ahead of a traditional full translated release.
Okay, thanks, Scott. I got a couple questions for Dave. I'm going to kind of try to wrap into one. One question was the notes NRPC protocol, if there are any enhancements for the encryption used in that, as well as someone commenting that he's having some issues passing some vulnerability scans on the server controller port, which 2050. So maybe you can comment on those two areas.
Sure. On the NRPC front, we have NRPC encryption using AES up and running in development versions in the lab today, and we're targeting that for Domino next at the latest. And on the Java controller front, we have a team of people currently working on updating that in order to improve the in order to update the SSL stack that is used for the Java controller.
Okay,
go ahead.
I'm going to wrap a couple of questions that we have related to Hawthorne. These are related to Hawthorne availability. There's actually quite a few here. Some are, how do I get my customers into to use Hawthorne now as it is, and other questions about GA for Hawthorne.
Sure. So right now we're having our sales and tech sales reps be the interface for customers who want to use Hawthorne, so that they can run through some of the prereqs and capabilities to make sure that it's a good match, and so that we have a technical liaison there. So the reps know how to get people into the program and have that conversation. We're looking to GA in the first half of next year, after our cloud release.
Okay, I think we're kind of went over our time, so I think we'll call it a wrap at this point. And I'd like to thank Scott and Dave and Scott Souder